Every portrait sculpture in the history of the medium has a patron. Someone who commissioned it, paid for it, specified what they wanted, and received a finished object that belonged to them. This is not a convention. It is the fundamental economic and social structure through which sculpture has existed for 3,000 years. The sculptor serves the commission. The commission defines the work. In approximately 1636, Gian Lorenzo Bernini broke this structure entirely. He carved a portrait bust of a woman for no patron, no church, no institution. He carved it for himself. He kept it. And what he produced, in the absence of every constraint that had shaped every other work of his career, is the most unsettling thing he ever made. The woman is Costanza Bonarelli. She was the wife of Matteo Bonarelli, one of Bernini's own studio assistants. The exact nature and duration of their relationship is not fully documented, but the bust itself leaves little room for ambiguity. This is not a formal portrait. It is not a study in idealization or a record of social status. It is a face caught in a specific, private, unrepeatable moment, lips slightly parted, hair unbound, the collar of her dress open at the throat in a way that no official portrait of the period would have permitted. The bust is now in the Bargello Museum in Florence. It is carved from white Carrara marble. It stands approximately 70 centimeters tall, and from the moment it was rediscovered and attributed to Bernini in the 19th century. Scholars have struggled to account for what it is doing in the history of sculpture, because nothing before it looks like it, and very little after it does either. But this is where the story becomes stranger. Bernini was, by 1636, the most celebrated sculptor in Europe. He had completed the baldachin over the tomb of St. Peter, had produced the Apollo and Daphne, and the David and the Pluto and Persephone, had redesigned much of the visual identity of Rome under the patronage of Pope Urban VIII. His output was vast, his workshop large, his public commissions unceasing. Every major work of his career was produced under specific constraints. The patron specified the subject. The church specified the dimensions. The theological program specified the iconography. Bernini was extraordinarily inventive within these constraints. His ability to find expressive possibilities within commission parameters was precisely what made him indispensable, but the constraints were always there. The Costanza bust has none of them. There is no record of a commission, no payment receipt, no correspondence discussing the work, no studio record identifying when it was begun or completed. The bust appears in the historical record suddenly, as a private object in Bernini's possession, carrying none of the documentary trail that follows every other significant work of his career. What a sculptor does when no one is watching, when there is no patron to satisfy, no theological program to follow, no public to address, is a different kind of evidence than anything a commission can produce. And what Bernini did was this: look at the technical choices directly. Because they are where the mystery lives, Bernini's official portraits, the busts of popes, cardinals, and aristocrats that form a significant part of his output, are masterpieces of a specific kind. They are animated, individualized, psychologically present in ways that earlier portrait sculpture was not. But they are also composed. The sitter is shown at their best, most authoritative, most public moment. The expression is controlled. The drapery is formal. The hair is arranged. Costanza's hair is not arranged. It falls loosely, incompletely, as if she has just risen or has not yet finished dressing. The collar of her dress is not the formal neckline of official portraiture. It is open, informal, the kind of detail that belongs to a private space rather than a public one. And her lips are parted in a way that suggests interrupted speech, or breath, or something that cannot be named precisely, but that every viewer of the bust has noticed and none has fully described: the technical term for what Bernini achieved in this bust is sprezzatura, the Italian concept of artful effortlessness, the studied appearance of the unstudied. But sprezzatura, as an artistic concept, is always performed. It is always calculated to appear uncalculated. The Costanza bust does not feel performed. It feels observed. It feels like a sculptor who is trying, for the only time in his career, to catch something before it disappeared. The deeper researchers look, the more questions appear, because the story of Costanza Bonarelli does not end with the bust dot in 1638. Approximately 2 years after the bust is believed to have been made, Bernini discovered that Costanza was also involved with his younger brother Luigi. What followed is documented in the legal records of Rome. Bernini attacked Luigi in the street and beat him severely. He then sent a servant to Costanza's house with instructions to slash her face with a razor. The servant carried out the instructions. Costanza was disfigured. Bernini was prosecuted. Pope Urban VIII intervened personally on his behalf. The case was resolved with a fine and a letter of reprimand. Within 2 years, Bernini was married to another woman, the marriage arranged by the Pope who had protected him. The legal record closes. Costanza disappears from the historical record. The bust remained in Bernini's possession. This biographical context does not resolve the question of what the bust means. It deepens it. The most intimate, most unguarded, most technically revolutionary portrait Bernini ever carved was a portrait of a woman whose face he later ordered destroyed. He kept the marble face after ordering the real one disfigured. He kept it for the rest of his life. Whether the bust is an act of love, possession, or something for which the language of either category is insufficient, is a question the object cannot answer, and the archive has not settled at first. The standard art historical reading seems to account for all of this. The Costanza bust, by this reading, is a private work in which Bernini's technical innovations, his ability to suggest motion, breath, and psychological interiority in marble, appear in their purest form, unconstrained by the requirements of public commission. It is valuable precisely because it shows us what Bernini could do when no one was asking him to do anything specific. This reading is not wrong. It accounts for the technical achievement. It places the bust within a narrative of artistic freedom that is coherent and historically plausible. But it does not account for what happens to a viewer standing in front of the bust in the Bargello. The experience of looking at the Costanza bust is not the experience of looking at liberated technique. It is the experience of looking at something that was not meant for you. Something private, made more private by everything that happened afterward. That has somehow survived into public view against the logic of its own history. The marble face is intact. The real face was not. Bernini died in 1680. He left behind a body of work that defined the visual language of the Catholic Baroque across Europe, and that is still visible in the physical fabric of Rome. The Costanza bust was not part of the legacy he curated. It was not included in the accounts of his work written by contemporaries. It entered the historical record quietly through the posthumous dispersal of his estate and reached the Bargello through a sequence of transactions that the archive traces without fully explaining. The bust has been in Florence for over 2 centuries. It has been studied, photographed, debated. The question of what it represents, technically, psychologically, morally, has produced a body of scholarship that reaches no consensus on the most important questions. What kind of looking produced this face? What was Bernini trying to preserve when he made it? And what does it mean that the most honest portrait he ever carved is a portrait of a woman whose honesty he later punished? The marble has not changed. The parted lips are still there. The loose hair is still there. The open collar is still there. And the question the bust places in front of you, whether what you are looking at is a masterpiece of intimacy, or a record of something far more complicated, is the same. Question: it was in 1636. When Bernini finished carving and set it down and did not explain what he had made or why he intended to keep it, he kept it anyway. For the rest of his life, the face is still here. The explanation is not.